Welcome to the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. Your adventure into the world of comic book movies starts here.
Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another adventure of the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. My name's Travis.
And I'm Patrick.
And we are still locked in our homes.
I know, I just watched Escape from New York. It was very, I was jealous.
Yeah. What did we watch? We just watched an episode of Next Generation, and it had to deal with people being locked, some kind of quarantine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. My wife had never really watched much Star Trek. She's seen most of the movies, but, we're like everyone, just kind of looking for new shows to binge. And she was like, "What about Star Trek? Do you think I'd like it?" I was like, "Well, I think you'd like Next Gen. I don't know if we went back to original series, if you'd find the campiness as charming as, as I do. But
yeah.
So we started with Next Gen.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's I'll say it's a friendly sci-fi show to jump into. Maybe you've already seen it. It's called Eureka.
She watched that a couple of years ago, and I have a weird thing about like sci-fi channel shows.
Really?
They all they just feel, I don't know what it is, like if it's like they're all kind of a procedural, or it's all those shows that are on the Sci-Fi Channel that are all shot in Vancouver, that all look the exact same, like that.
Yeah.
And
Warehouse 13.
Yeah, I mean, just so many shows that I just kind of got sick of the. Maybe I got tired of the style, because they all look the same.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
I mean, they'd cross over all the time. That's how similar they were. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's just an easy one to get into if you're not really into sci-fi.
Yeah.
Because it's, like you said, it's like a procedural. It's basically like a detective story thrown into a sci-fi world, essentially.
Yeah.
But, I don't know why that just popped in my head, but I haven't watched that in like 6 years maybe or so.
Yeah.
All right.
So.
We got some characters to talk about today.
Why not? We got some time to kill.
Can't wait to hear some names that make me go, huh?
Who?
The Knight of the Shadow Republic of China? What?
Oh, man. Well, yeah, so we're going to do, continuing with our character review of the top 100 comic book heroes over on IGN. They did a list a few years ago, and looks like our first number is number 45.
Ooh, middle of the road.
Yeah, let's see who 45 is. Oh my god. It's a character called Spider Jerusalem.
I was not that far off from my guess where I said the Shadow of the Republic of China. It was a weird name, and then a country or government, so I'm pretty good.
Wow. The only thing I know about Spider Jerusalem is that he's a character in the comic series called Transmetropolitan. He's like got a bald head, he's got a spider tattoo on his head, and he wears glasses that have like one green lens and one red lens, and I don't know anything about him.
Wow.
I've never read Transmetropolitan. I know it's regarded as a good series, but just never one that I got into. I'm
wondering how he got number 45.
Yeah. So it says, first appearance, Transmetropolitan number 1, September 1997. And it says, if Hunter S. Thompson were transported to a deranged and technologically overloaded future, the result would be Spider Jerusalem. This star of Transmetropolitan keeps gonzo journalism alive with his scathing reports and loud diatribes against the many excesses of future society. I like Hunter S. Thompson, so I might like this character. Says
How is he a superhero?
Yeah, I don't know. I think this. I don't think everyone on here is a superhero. I think it's like he's probably the protagonist of this book.
Okay.
I doubt he does a lot of heroics. I don't know. Says slightly unhinged and addicted to all manner of drugs, Spider Jerusalem isn't quite a role model for kids. There you go. But over the course of the series' long life, readers came to know the true Spider Jerusalem and revel in his ultimate victory. Yeah, I've got nothing on Spider Jerusalem.
Spider Jerusalem. Just for once, I was hoping that there'd be some kind of spider-human hybrid that wasn't Spider-Man. Like, it actually looked more like a spider than human.
Yeah.
So I was kind of hoping it was going that route, but he's a reporter.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I might have to.
Vale. Okay.
Yeah. I might have to check it out. It's I like I said,
you
I
might
like Hunter
it.
S. Thompson. So
yeah, I mean, huh?
Yep. So moving on.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
It's all uphill now.
Ooh, okay. Number 12. We've had a number 8, so we've gone deeper in the list, but we're getting hopefully something good. Okay, I think we can talk about this one. Iron Man.
So he likes to iron.
He's very involved in the textiles industry. Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly didn't really know much about this character until the Marvel movies.
Okay.
I never really paid attention to Iron Man previously. I'd seen him, zip in, shoot some beams, call it a day, but I don't think I really paid that much attention to him until Robert Downey Jr.
Right. I think that's pretty common for just about, for everybody except for hardcore comic book readers. I mean, I even, with as many comics as I read as a kid, I may have read a couple with Iron Man in them. He was never, he was B-list probably at the height of his popularity in the 80s and 90s. Like, he was a B or C list character. Most of the Avengers characters were, and that's why no other studio had bought those, and that's why Marvel still owned those characters. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. and Kevin Feige and Jon Favreau, took a character that no one really cared much about or knew much about, and just, made him a A-list, one of the best or most well-known characters in all of, comic book movies, and now even in the comics, like, he became a heavy hitter. So
yeah, I mean, essentially he's like a version of Batman almost. Except personality wise totally different, but parents are killed. Granted, he was a bit older if the movies are correct. And then he's also a billionaire, has toys, human, without any real superpower.
Right.
So I've always kind of compared the two. Except Iron Man seems to be more insanely powered than Batman.
Oh, sure.
Like, yeah. he can do a way more and handle Thanos, for crying out loud, for somewhat anyway.
Yeah, he can hold his own for a little while.
Yeah. Where Batman, he's banking on Thanos having a mother with the same name.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah. I've recently been, I've got the Marvel Digital Comics app that lets you, for a subscription. It's a Netflix basically for Marvel Comics, and I've been going through and going back to the original, run of like 60s Marvel Comics. So I started with Fantastic Four, and then jumped into Avengers, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, and I've been reading them like in release order. So I would read like Fantastic Four, and then I would jump over and read that, that same week's issue of Captain America or Iron Man, or I would jump basically go through the entire. I'm going through the entire Marvel Comics universe in order, basically, like as if these comics were coming out. If I was a kid in the '60s, that's how you would have read them. You would have either, you would have had to basically wait for the next issue. So in the meantime, you'd jump over to the other book, and so I've been doing that, and I really like reading Iron Man. He's Tony Stark is a completely. He's not too different than the way Robert Downey portrays him, but there are some big differences. I mean, he starts out, he's a weapons manufacturer and goes over to Vietnam and gets not Vietnam. This is happening in the 60s, so it was like
is that Korean War?
Yeah. I think I think they even keep it kind of vague, like some Oriental country, something like that. But the books are all very like down with communism, China and the Red Menace and all that stuff. So,
okay.
So anyways, it's an interesting character to read because he is injured, and he, instead of having to wear like a little chest piece where, it's like in the movies, he has to wear basically the torso section of his armor. Because he can't, in the comics they haven't yet, anyways, reduced the necessary components down to just a small chest piece. Like it's basically like I said, the torso section of the armor, and he just wears it, underneath his suit, because comics, it's his armor is always like the thinnest, thing imaginable, but it's they just explain it away as like, oh, it's very flexible and it's made of some special technology that he developed. So it's like it's never him wearing this big bulky thing underneath his clothes. So but that's
gonna start smelling after a while.
Yeah. And like the thing that drives me nuts about reading these old Iron Man comics is he can't tell Pepper Potts how he feels about her, because how could she ever love a man who has a defective heart and has to wear this, basically this iron lung, and that's how a lot of the Marvel comics are at this point. Like Daredevil runs around, and how could Karen Page ever love a blind man? And Thor's alter ego, has a limp and walks with a cane. And he's like, how could Jane Foster ever love a lame doctor? It's all these guys have the same problem as far as their civilian identities. It's like, how could this person ever love a man with a disability? So,
okay, you just blew my mind. Thor has a secret identity.
Yeah. He. They make a joke about it in the first Thor movie when Jane Foster gives him a shirt to wear, and it has a name tag on it, and it says Donald Blake, like Dr. Donald Blake.
Jeez.
And that's who he is. And I could save this, and I'm assuming Thor's on this list, but yeah, like he's Donald Blake, and he's traveling in the, some faraway land, and goes into a cave and finds this stick, and he taps the stick on the ground, and it transforms him into Thor. And then he realizes that, he was Thor all along, and
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Can't wait.
Yeah. But anyways, Iron Man.
Yeah.
First appearance, Tales of Suspense, number 39 from March of 1963.
Tales of Suspense. Okay.
Yeah. Tales of God damn, it's a hard one to say. Tales of Suspense it's a good book. It's kind of a split book. I mean, it's one of those that started, in the probably late 50s for Marvel, before Marvel was Marvel, and it would have been stories about, monsters or other like sci-fi things. Most of Marvel's books were that before they became Marvel. Okay. Tales to Astonish and what else? Strange Tales and all that stuff. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So he didn't come in on somebody else's comic. He sort of started his own story.
Yeah, I mean, it would have just been like I think Stan Lee and I think Jack Kirby, created Iron Man. I know Stan did. I can't remember if Jack Kirby did or not.
Okay.
But they would have been like, well, what are we going to write about this week? Well, let's create a weapons manufacturer who, has to become like a peacekeeper, and so it's kind of the long running like duality of the hero who makes weapons and.
Well, he ironically becomes a weapon himself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
makes sense.
Cool. I think number 12 is a good spot for Iron Man to be on. I mean, I think that the reason that Iron Man is popular now in comics is definitely because of Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau and Kevin Feige. So
yeah, I wonder where he would have been prior to that.
Yeah,
like 60s or 70s.
I was thinking 70s, 80s. Yeah.
Man, yeah, it's crazy how. Because, like, what you said, like, nobody wanted any of the Avengers. It kind of makes sense because it's the craziest collection of characters.
Yeah.
Like a Norse god and a frozen caveman Captain America. And you got some lady that dresses in black. The guy that can shoot arrows. Ant-Man.
Wasp. And...
It's a weird collection, to say the least.
Yeah.
So,
but I've really been digging reading the old original Marvel comics. Just it's been a lot of fun. Some crazy, wacky stories, but
yeah, it would be interesting because it's kind of a time capsule.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
kind of tells you like what was going on in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they definitely a lot of Red Scare.
Yeah, all I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Yeah. Should we move on?
Let's do it to it.
All right. Okay, we're staying in this area. So number 10.
Ooh.
Okay, Daredevil.
Oh, wow. He's up further than Iron Man?
I'm a little surprised by that, but he's had a really big resurgence in the last, 10 years in the comics. I think his comics are definitely more, have overshadowed like the movie that came out in 2003, which was a kind of a
Affleck one.
Yeah, kind of a failure, I would say.
Yeah,
but,
I would say so.
The
Netflix show is probably the more successful of the live action iterations.
Yeah, but he has had some really good writers in the comics that have, I think, done some good things for the character and taken him in weird and different directions. I think his identity has been outed, and at one point he became like a kind of head of the Hand secret, the ninja.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't the Hand part of Iron Fist?
I think in that show, I think they were a big part of it, but they're definitely a big part of Daredevil's history as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, Daredevil. First appearance, Daredevil number 1 from April of 1964. Yeah. I want to say, this is Stan Lee, and I think Bill Everett, was the other guy that kind of created him. His comics are a lot of fun to read, like because he is like an acrobat. I think his origin. He's struck by a radioactive isotope, I think, helping a man cross the street, and there's a truck that goes wild, and so he gets blinded by that, and of course, and he doesn't really have superpowers other than that. He has his radar sense, but they kind of just explain it as because he's blind, his body just learned to adapt and overcome, and it's not. I don't think they've not really explained or insinuated that the thing that blinded him gave him powers. It's just like anyone could do this if they just focused and committed and all that stuff. So,
and the show, didn't he have like some sensei of sorts? Like
they definitely Stick. I think Frank Miller introduced Stick in the 80s when he took on the character and kind of turned him into a dark and gritty kind of character. Before that, he was just kind of an acrobatic adventurer sort of character.
Weird.
Yeah.
It's definitely a unique superhero with taking on blindness and kind of giving that community of people somebody to root for.
Yeah.
I I'm glad they didn't make him into like some kind of bat or something to play on the whole blind thing.
Right.
That could have gone sideways. Yeah, just the name always threw me off because I thought he was like going to be some kind of like ex stuntman or something,
Sure.
or like
Yeah,
Evil Knievel, just based on the name.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty cool character. I mean, again, he's essentially Batman-esque in that he's essentially human with some maybe a minor tweak to his senses. Maybe he's just gifted more so than others, so that not every blind person could do this. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
He's obviously got physical capabilities that are pretty insane to maneuver around in the way he does.
Yeah, because he's almost up there with Spider-Man in terms of like acrobat abilities and the way he's able to use his cane, which doubles as everything. But he can use it to fire like grappling cables, and so he can web sling, basically just like Spider-Man. That silly cane, like it can do everything. It can be a periscope. It can be, so many like things are hidden inside this cane that.
Why does he need a periscope if he's blind?
I might be making that one up, but
okay. I was like, wait, something's not tracking here.
I think they've done away with some of that in the more modern
Batman's got
comics.
Shark repellent or shark stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
So give the man his cane.
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks.
Character.
Travis wants to take this blind man's cane away. Brutal.
That's right.
Yeah, and he's even got almost like a spider sense, like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
With his sonar-esque, like I don't know. They do a good job on the TV show of kind of visualizing it.
Oh yeah. I like the way they do it in the comics generally a little bit more, especially the newer ones. It'll be like a sonar, and they play with color a lot more. Like he'll have these concentric rings that go out from him, and then it'll bounce off like a heartbeat, or So I think they've been better in the comics as far as visualizing his his sonar ability. So I know in the movie they used like when it was raining, he could like basically see Elektra, and then in the comic or in the Netflix show, I think at one point they visualized it like the world's on fire or something, and he could kind of see. I forget who it was, maybe Rosario Dawson.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah, he's a fun character. Again, same problem. I kind of mentioned it with Iron Man. He's in this, at least in these original '60s books, he's in this like love triangle. Him, Karen Page, and Foggy Nelson, his partner, and it's he loves Karen Page, but tries to drive her away or not show interest because again, how could she ever love a blind man? And then you get her internal monologue, which is, oh, Matt, if you would just tell me you love me, and she's pining for him, Matt Murdock. And then you have Foggy, who's like, oh, it's, I think she loves Matt, but but he loves Karen as well. So it's like they're all in love with each other, but no one wants to make a move because they're afraid of hurting the other one's feelings, or it's just this, that's the stuff that drives me nuts with these original comics, anyways.
Yeah.
But I know what I was gonna say. Yeah, he does have like a spidey sense when using that sonar. I was just reading an issue where it's like he was fighting Spider-Man, and he was coming, like swinging, towards his office to change back into Matt Murdock, and he could, kind of sense people. Like he recognizes Karen's heartbeat, like because her heartbeat is different than anyone else's, and he can tell when it's Karen and Foggy in the next room, or so it's like he can, if he learns someone's specific heartbeat, he can remember that and basically have a sense of like who's near him.
Gotcha.
Of course, that works for him being a lawyer. Like he can detect when people are lying based on their, pulse rate, and if they start sweating, he can smell the little bit of sweat, and just all that kind of stuff is really kind of cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I didn't know about the smell. Aspect.
Yeah, and then of course he can touch. His sense of touch is heightened. That he can read. Like if he runs his fingers over actual text, he can feel the ink on the printed page and like the impression that it makes. So he doesn't even need to read Braille. He can, but he doesn't have to. He can actually just read normal text because of like I said, the impression that it makes. So I think the one thing he can't really do is distinguish color. Like he can't feel, if something is red versus green.
Yeah.
But I think generally he's a perfectly sighted man. I mean, he probably has better vision than most people, but
yeah.
So
cool.
Daredevil's a cool character. Yeah. I do look forward to, I wish that they could merge the Netflix Marvel characters into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It doesn't sound like they're going to, but I'd be perfectly happy if that version of Daredevil was used in the movies. So
yeah, I mean it's gonna be interesting with all the purchasing that Disney's done, because I know the big thing is Fantastic Four and what's his face, Deadpool.
All the Fox stuff,
X-Men. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You want to squeeze in one more, since we didn't really have the first one?
Yeah, the Spider Jerusalem threw me for a loop.
Oh yeah. It's number 56. Okay, Hawkman.
Oh,
this is a DC character.
I know him from the animated series.
Yeah.
As like a cursed Egyptian,
right?
Or something like to reconnect with his Hawk Girl and screw it up or something.
Yeah.
And is it Vandal Savage or the other one that's involved with this?
I think Vandal Savage is probably tied in with Hawkman. I'm not certain about that, but
there's like an immortal connection between three people, two of which are Hawkgirl and Hawkman, but there's another guy.
I don't know.
Couldn't remember if it was Vandal Savage or somebody else. That's
it very well could be, because I know he's an immortal. He's been around forever. So Hawkman, first appearance, Flash Comics #1 from January of 1940.
Oh, wow! 1940. I don't think I realized the Flash was around that long.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's. I mean, most of the DC characters go back to Superman was 38, Batman was 39, and then most of the Justice League goes from 1940 to maybe 42 or 43 or something. They were all kind of created
wow.
that
We're
far
not
back.
that far off from their 100th anniversary.
Not too far, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. They've got that on Marvel. They've got another almost 30 years of history. So, so it says Hawkman's origin is a little iffy to recount. There are just too many variations on the story. He is either a man named Carter Hall, who is a reincarnated version of an Egyptian prince, Khufu, that discovered nth metal, allowing him to fly, or he's Qatar Hall, a policeman from the planet Thanagar, made up of similar looking bird people. Either way, Hawkman's power set remained largely the same: the ability to fly, toss around a huge mace like it was a stick, show off epic chest hair, and just go about being a complete and total badass. I know that he has a reputation for being just a savage. Like he's a brawler, I think you'd get Russell Crowe in his prime,
okay.
where he's maybe a little huge, or maybe like a Daniel Craig from when he was first in Casino Royale, where he was just a huge, hulk of a man, but just a brawler. I love Hawkman's look.
Yeah.
But what were you gonna say?
I was thinking, what's his face? From the movie Bronson. Tom Hardy.
Oh, yeah, Tom Hardy. Yeah, he'd be a good Hawkman.
I think of him as a brawler.
Yeah. Definitely in that Bronson.
Yeah. So, I always thought it was a cool look. Like the headpiece.
Yeah.
That they have. I forgot about the Thanagarian or whatever it is. Aspect, where it's like another planet.
Mm-hmm. And they're like always at war with Ron, so it's like the Ron Thanagarian War.
Okay.
He has something to do with that. I don't know my DC history as well as I do Marvel stuff. And
yeah, DC's always been sketchy to me because I think that's the one where there's like a rant. There's crap. Is Doomsday or not Doomsday? Who's the big blue guy that Superman fights?
That's Doomsday.
Oh, it is Doomsday?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Doomsday was the craggly guy with the...
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Darkseid.
Darkseid. There we go.
The names, like, I could picture Darkseid's name being Doomsday. Like, I know the characters are nothing alike, but the name is like, I could go for either,
I know there's a planet associated, like, fighting or tensions with Darkseid's planet.
Yeah, Apocalypse.
Yeah, Apocalypse, and then there's another planet with people, like another super beings or whatever.
Oh, like the New Gods.
Yeah,
whatever their planet is. I don't know
so
if that has
that like intertwined with Thanagarian, or is that just totally separate?
It very well could be. I'm not certain.
Okay. Because I remember seeing that group of super beings and thinking, where the hell did they come from?
Yeah.
But for some reason, I thought they were associated with Hawkman.
Maybe I'm not sure.
Yeah, DC's always been weird. I feel like it's just Batman and Superman, and that's it. And an occasional super friend pops up.
Yeah.
Which is saying something. It's like they've been around 30 years longer.
Mm-hmm.
But I know way fewer DC characters.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean they've. I mean, I think it's no stretch to say that they just haven't made the impact with a lot of their characters in the last 10 or 15 years. I mean, they've done Superman and Batman plenty of times, but they just haven't been able to really dig into their huge roster of characters very much. So.
Yeah, I think it's because they're more animated focused.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I mean, they want to be in movies, but they are basically owning the animated market.
Yeah. Hawkman.
Yeah, Hawkman. Again, visually he's a awesome character. I read some Hawkman when DC did the what was it called? DC, the New 52 in 2011. I picked up the first couple issues of Hawkman because the art was just beautiful. Real gritty, real, just, like I said, just made him look real savage and awesome with his mace and, all that stuff. But not much to dig into as far as the actual storyline went, so I didn't continue with it. So I've not read much Hawkman. Enough to know the name, the two names, I guess, that he kind of goes by depending on the continuity. And, I think the DC, the Legends of Tomorrow, I think helped out with, like, being a little bit more familiar with the character's mythology with all the Egyptian stuff. But, like, they kind of killed him off, I think, pretty quick and then focused on Hawk Girl. And that's, I think, kind of the same thing that that the animated, Justice League, they kind of did the same thing. They made her be the one on the team, which is good because
Yeah, they need some ladies.
Yeah.
Little diversity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Plus, I feel like she's just more interesting than Hawkman because, like you said, he's basically like a a brute of sorts, like
Yeah.
a gladiator.
Yeah.
And she seems to have a bit more to her than just that. At least she's portrayed that way in the animated, where she's kind of like a detective almost. And I don't remember if she maybe pretended to be a detective as like a cover.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if she's on this list and, you know, a few notches higher than Hawkman.
Yeah.
So hopefully, we'll get to talk about her more sometime.
All right.
I think that'll probably be enough for this one.
All right.
So we'll probably be back with a movie review. So stay safe, everyone. Wash your hands. In these troubled times.
Any other phrases that are popular right now, like abundance of caution?
Right. Let's make sure and social distance out there, and we're all in this together. We're all in the same boat.
If we're all in the same boat, that does not seem hygienic.
Yeah.
I've seen the cruise ships.
Yeah. I did see a cool like meme, I think yesterday. It said, "We're not in the same boat. We're all in the same storm." And it showed like a bunch of different, like, you know, aircraft carrier and yachts and sailboats and
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, that'll do it for this one. And like I said, stay safe out there, citizens.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Find the show on Facebook and Twitter at Real Comic Heroes. All music and audio are the property of their respective creators.